Hello friends, so today we are going to solve another problem which is basically medium level problem which is called merge intervals, and this question is also asked very much by all the FAANG companies, as you can see here. So let's go through the question first. So we are given an array of intervals. So this is an array of intervals where interval of I contains two values. One is start I and one is end I. So for an example, this is one interval which contains start as 1 and end as 3. We have to merge all overlapping intervals and return an array of the non-overlapping intervals that cover all the intervals in the input. So what it means basically, if you see, the first one is 1 3, second interval is 2 6, and if let me show you one draw here. So this is 1 3, this is 2 6. If you can visualize this one, so it means they are overlapping because 2 comes before the first interval is ending, so we have to convert it to 1 6. So if you see it visually, it is very simple. So what we need to do, we need to loop through all the intervals and we need to check if the current interval is this one. We need to check its start value false equal to or less than the previous interval's end value, and for getting the end value of this merge interval, we need to find the maximum of the ending in value of first interval or the second interval. Because if you see, if I just extend this line like this, so where suppose this is 7 here, so in that case the merge intervals ending will be 7, so it will become 1 comma 7. So this is the reason, while taking the end of the merge interval, you need to take the maximum end of either the first or the second interval. And before implementing that algorithm, we need to make sure this array is in sorted order. So whatever logic we are discussing here, the assumption is this interval is in sorted order based on the start. So if you see this one, they have already given an example which is basically sorted by the start value, but you should not assume that this interval is sorted array, because nowhere in the question it is given that it is sorted. So first thing what we will do, we will simply sort it. For that we will use arrays sort function, which basically will take what array you want to sort, and it's a in place sorting, so it will basically update the intervals array. And in second parameter you need to define how do you want to sort, because as you know, it's not a simple number. Each interval consists of two value, so we need to tell it, if you are comparing two interval a comma b, then compare the first value. So I can say a0, which is basically start of interval a, and b0. So this way this array will be sorted in increasing order. So next thing we need to do, we need to have two variables. So I will take one as start, and it will be basically first interval's start value, which is basically 0 0. So because it's a 2D array, so with this 0, with this first 0, I am telling to take this first interval, and this 0 is telling to take the first value of that interval, which is basically start. At the same way we can have int and equals intervals 0 of 1. So this way we have our start and end ready. Now we will loop through all the remaining intervals, and we will try to create an overlapping intervals array. So for that, because initially we don't know how many overlapping intervals will be, so we cannot take an array because we don't know the size. So best way to do it, first take an list, which is basically array of int array. This int array is basically, we are saying it's kind of 1 comma 3. So this is a int array, so we'll try to store these kind of values inside this list. We'll call it as overlapping intervals, and this will be new array list. Okay, next thing we need to do, we need to loop through all the intervals starting from the first index. So I'll write a for loop, and we'll say index equals 1, index less than intervals dot length. So we'll loop through all the intervals, and index plus plus. So if you remember this picture, we have to check the starting value of this current index is less than or equals the end value of the previous interval. And in our case we have stored start or end for first interval like this. So what we can do, we can simply check if current intervals start value is less than equals the end value, which is basically in first case it will be 0th index, then we know it's a overlapping interval. And in that case we just need to find out the new end, where we already discussed that it should be either maximum of first interval or second interval, because the ending can be different. And start value we can take from the first, because anyway we have sorted this array based on start value. Max to max, what will happen, this second interval may start at 1, so in that case also we are safe here. So we will not update start in that case, we'll just update end, which will be basically math.max of current intervals and the current end. So current end we already know it's a end variable. And if this is not the case, then we know these are not overlapping, so we simply need to add this current interval into overlapping intervals, and we need to update the start and end variables. Overlapping intervals dot add, and what we need to add, we need to add a new int array. So we'll say new int array, and at the same time we can specify the values, so which is basically start comma end. So we have added an overlapping interval, and then we need to update start, which will be current intervals start value, and end value will be current intervals end value. And we'll keep on running this condition until we run out of the length of the intervals array. And at the end you need to remember that these last start and end, they are not getting added to this overlapping intervals. So you just need to write one more line where you can add these values, which is basically new int array start comma end. Okay, so we have an overlapping intervals array, but it is in the form of a list, so we need to convert it back to array, because the return type of this function is int 2D array. What we can do, there is a function which can convert a list, so which is called, you can just copy the name of the list then to array function, and inside this we need to declare what kind of array is this. So this is new int, and the length is overlapping interval size, so we'll just tell it size, and we know the length of individual array is 2, which is basically start and end. So let's try to run this one. Okay, so we did not define the data type of this one. Let's try again. So this is accepted, let me submit it, and this is done. And as usual, let's discuss the runtime and space complexity of this solution. So at the very first line we are sorting this array, and we know sorting of array takes order of n log n is runtime complexity, where n is the length of the array. So for this example the length is 1 2 3 4, so order of n log n. And what else are we doing, we are looping through everything. So again loop is again this loop will be up to maximum n times, where n is the size of the intervals array, so it will be order of n. That's it. So it means the runtime complexity is order of n log n, which is coming from here. And let's see how much is the space complexity. So when we are doing this function internally, this arrays.sort is taking order of n space complexity, so we have order of n space complexity here. Start and end, anyway these are order of 1, but again this list, it can be maximum of length of the intervals array. So suppose a scenario where nothing is overlapping, so we have 1 3 maybe 4 6 8 10 15 18, in that case nothing will be overlapped, so our final array size will be same as the input array size. So in that case again it will be order of n, so space complexity will be order of n. So that's it my friends, please like and subscribe to my channel in case you like this video. Stay tuned, I'm planning to create many more coding videos, and I'm also planning to add system design videos, also behavioral interview videos, Plus I'm creating some projects here which you can use to learn new technologies, for example Python or web development or app development. Yeah, that's it for now. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.